And we want to welcome everybody. Back as we are continuing in the Tzurba Mirabonan series. We are in volume 16, and we are in Shir Bet. So remember, this volume deals primarily with the mitzvot aseh, the positive commandments of Shabbat. And last week we dealt with dealing with preparing for Shabbat as in travel, and we're going on cruise ships and the like. And this week, and the next two shiurim are going to be dealing with hilchot of Hadlakat Nerot, of lighting the candles for Shabbat. And we all know that lighting the candles for Shabbat is a very significant role. It sort of signifies Shabbat coming in, right? Candle lighting. There was a famous story that the New York Times once made a newspaper as if it's from the future, like 100, 200 years in the future. And on it, it said Shabbat candle lighting is going to be at this time. So they asked them, why did you put that in the newspaper as a future newspaper? So they said, well, no matter what happens in the world, we know that Jewish ladies will continue to light candles no matter when or where or what time, what year in the world it is. So Shabbat candles is a very important aspect of Shabbat. So today we're going to deal with 4 topics, really. If you take a look on page 71, 2 pages before 73, it goes through the things we're going to be dealing with. We're going to do, first of all, what's the reason for lighting Shabbat candles? Why are we doing it? Why did they used to do it? Those reasons still apply today. We'll have to deal with that. Then we're going to have to deal with how many candles should one light? You go to different people's homes, you don't know how many candles they're lighting. There's a whole candelabra with 1 million candles on it. Right. So how many do you have to actually light? What's the minhag? What's the custom? Are there different customs? What happens if one forgets to light Shabbat candles one week? We'll have to deal with that also. Number 3, the question we're going to deal with. What should one use to light? What's the proper materials to use? And then the 4th question for today we're going to be dealing with is where should one light? Okay? So why we light, how we light, what we light, and where we light. Those are the 4 questions we're going to be dealing with in this tonight's Shir Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay.
What page?
We're now holding on page 73. Thank you, Avram, for joining. We're on page 73, and we're starting with the reason to light Shabbat candle. Says the Tzurba in source number 1 from Masechet Shabbat. Amar Rav Nachman bar Rav Zavda. He says, Amar Rav Nachman bar Abba Amar Rav Hadlakat Ner Shabbat Chova. Lighting Shabbat candles is an obligation. Lighting Shabbat candles is a chova. Now Rashi says, why is it a chova? What's the chova? What's the obligation that you must light a Shabbat candle? Kivot Shabbatu, because it's in honor of she'en seuda hashuva el b'makom or ke'en yamama. It's no chashuv meal unless you're sitting in a well-lit place, right? If you're going to a restaurant and it's very dark, you should wonder what they're serving you, right? If it's very dark. But you want lights in front of you, you're going to enjoy your meal more. You should know that a lot of time, the enjoyment in the meal is not just the taste. A lot of time, it's the presentation, right? How you present the food. So you want to be able to see the food. So it's Kivod Shabbat, says the Rashi. It's in honor of Shabbat, so you can have a good and enjoyable meal. That's what Rashi says over here. Okay, on page 74, we're looking in Tosafot. Tosafot on this Gemara says, first of all, he says, don't get mixed up with this word chova, right? Because we have another halacha that says chova. What's this? Mayim achronim chova. And is it really a chova? Do you really have to wash your hands after the meal? Now we say we do it, right? Because we say we don't know about the melech sodomit. But Tosfot says, like where Tosfot learns especially, he says it's not a chova to wash your hands for after the Suda. But we use the word mayim achronim chova. And you don't necessarily have to wash your hands for mayim achronim. Okay, as long as they're clean, maybe you can get away with that. Maybe I use the fork. We say you still have to do it. Al pi Kabbalah, but halacha, maybe you don't have to. So maybe you would think Hadlakat Nerot Chova means optional. Says Tosfot, that's not the case. When it says Ma'im Achronim Chova, it means Chova in the sense of safety.
Without the bracha.
Without a bracha. Why? Because it's something that's for safety. I'm preventing something. I'm preventing touching the sodomite salt that's going to touch my eye, chas v'shalom, and then my eye is going to get blind. So in order to prevent that, we wash our hands ma'im achronim. So there's no bracha. And that's what it means chova there. Chova of a prevention. But here, when it comes to lighting candles, says Tosfot, the chova is not a prevention. The chova is a mitzvah to do something positive. It's an asay. It's not a prevention. And therefore, you have to do it. Now, why? What's his reasoning? Hadlakat Nerot, hi chova shel mitzvat. It's a chova of a mitzvah. Of which mitzvah, says Tosfot? Oneg Shabbat. What does the word Oneg Shabbat mean? What does it mean, Oneg Shabbat? No, how do you understand Oneg?
The light of Shabbat.
The light, enjoyment of Shabbat. So it seems to be that Tosfot and Rashi have a different explanation why we're lighting the candles. Rashi says, Kivod Shabbat. Tosfot says, Oneg Shabbat.
But in different branches, they say for Shalom.
Oh, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to the Shalom Bayit part. You're all right. Okay, look at this box over here between source... Between source 3 and 4. Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, they disagree for Hadlakot Nerot. Is it Kavod Shabbat like Rashi? Is it Oneg to enjoy the Shabbat meal like Tosfot? What would be the difference? What would be the difference? What's the nafkamina between Rashi and Tosfot's understanding? If it's for the honor of Shabbat or it's for the enjoyment of Shabbat? So it's a very simple difference. If I have a candle already lit, before Shabbat started, so it's not for the honor of Shabbat,
right?
But I can still enjoy it on Shabbat. So maybe according to Tosfot, if it's just for enjoyment, I don't need to relight a candle. As long as my candle's already lit, I can still enjoy it on Shabbat. So perhaps I don't need to light it again. So Rabbeinu Tam right away says, it's the Gemara, the Tosfot says, Rabbeinu Tam, Shim haya haner mudlak ve'omad, shetzarich lichvot ve'lechzor ve'lahadlik. He says, even though I'm saying it's Oneg Shabbat to enjoy Shabbat with this candle, you're still going to have to shut it off and relight it. It has to be shown that it's for Shabbat. So even though he's saying kavod, Rashi saying kavod, he's saying Oneg, there seems to be some overlap that you want to show that it is for Shabbat. Interesting. The Rambam in two separate places in Chol Shabbat, in Perek Hey and Perek Lamed, he says both reasons. The Rambam says, you take a look at the Rambam, he at the end of that source number 5 in the bold, he says, Shezeh b'chlal oneg Shabbat. It's for oneg Shabbat. And so that's what he says in chapter 5 of Chol Shabbat. And he writes in the beginning, he says, very important to read this. Halakha nibur Shabbat ain't a reshut. It's not a reshut. It's not optional. Im rotza madlik, im rotza enu madlik. It's not a mitzvah. It's not something you can choose. She'enu chayiv v'lo yimtzav. She'enu chayiv l'dov acharei ha'achi yasen kegoin ervei chatzoros and tilas yadayim la'achila. It's not just a mitzvah that when you get to it, you do it. Ela chova. It's an obligation. Echad noshim chayivim liot bevatayim ner dolok b'Shabbat. Even if he doesn't know what to eat, he has to ask on the doors. He has to go begging for tzedakah. So says the Rambam very clearly, it is Oneg Shabbat. Then, in the next piece, in chapter 5 of Rambam, Hilchot Shabbat, Halacha 5, he writes, one must prepare one's house while it's still day. What? Mipnei kavod Shabbat. V'yan ner dalek b'shulchan aruch. Oh, matem utzuad shekol elu lichvod Shabbat hein. So the Rambam says the candle is also lichvod Shabbat. He says it's Oneg Shabbat in order to enjoy Shabbat, and it's also for the honor of Shabbat. So Tosfos seems to be saying it's both. Now the Rambam in chapter 30 of Hilchot Shabbat, he defines what kavod Shabbat is. The Rambam says, Eza kavod. What does it mean, kavod? People eat fish on Shabbat and they say, the chvod Shabbat kodesh. Is that correct? Says the Rambam, Eza kavod. Zeshem chacham shem mitzvah al adam l'chotz panav yodav v'raglav the chamim be'erev Shabbos from kavod Shabbos. Oh, mechuv Shabbos he should wear nice clothing. He shouldn't wear weekday clothing. So he seems to be saying that the preparation, washing the hands and the feet, wearing the proper clothing, that is kavod Shabbat. Ezu einig, says the Rambam. Zesham chacham shetzarich l'taken tavshil shemin beyoter shemin beyoter umashke. You have to prepare more food, more drink than usually. Everything according to the person's financial status. So the Rambam is making a differentiation between kavod and oneg. Kavod is something that you prepare, and oneg is something that you do for Shabbat, on Shabbat. And the Gra says it very, 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 very clearly. Look at source 7. The Gra says, V'ratzonu lomar, oneg hu b'Shabbat atzmo. Something on Shabbat itself, that's oneg. V'chavod hu be'erev Shabbat. Honoring Shabbat is doing something before Shabbat. So the Gra, based on the Rambam, all right, Kavod Shabbat is before Shabbat, and Oneg Shabbat is on Shabbat. Enjoyment of Shabbat is on Shabbat. Okay? So if you think about it for a second, perhaps the candle lighting is really both. Why? I'm giving Kavod to Shabbat by lighting the candle right before Shabbat. But at the same time, I have to use that candle on Shabbat. You have to actually have enjoyment from that candle. If you're lighting a candle, you're not gonna use it at all. I mean, you're lighting it and you're leaving. You're not going to stay home. You shouldn't be saying a bracha on that candle lighting, right? If you're not going to come back and use it at some point, you have to have used it, right? That's very different than Hanukkah lighting and Shabbos lighting. The Hanukkah candles you're not allowed to use. Shabbat candles you're supposed to use. So there's the kavod of Shabbat in lighting the candles, as well as enjoyment of that. Yeah, that's the whole reason. Yeah, so you should see your food, says Rashi, right? And the Rambam and Tosfos says in order to enjoy your food, in order to enjoy Shabbat. We're going to see another source now. Listen to this. Masechet Shabbat, source number 8 on page 76. And look, it's right before Hanukkah. Amarava, Pshitali, near Beethoven and near Hanukkah. Okay? The person is so poor, he can only have one candle. A candle for Shabbat or a candle for the Chanukiah. What does he do? Right? So he says, what do you do? Near Beto. You light the house, the candle for the house. That means you light the Shabbat candle. Why? Mishum Shalom Beto. Because it brings Shalom Bayit. How does it bring Shalom Bayit? Rashi says, because if you don't have candles in the home on Shabbat, you're going to be sitting in the dark. No one enjoys sitting in the dark. No one enjoys walking around and stubbing their foot all around the house because they can't see where they're walking. So the whole point of having candles on Shabbat is in order to have Shalom Bayit, in order to be able to see the house so not everybody's on edge. They can't find anything. They can't see anything. That's why you have to have the light in the house. We're on page 76. Page 76, source 10. The Gemara Masechet Shabbat says, a pasuk from Eicha, my soul is removed, far off from peace. I forget prosperity. What does this mean? Ravahu said, you know what it means, my soul is removed, far away from peace? This is someone's house that didn't have Shabbat candles lit. Why, says Rashi? He did not have anything to light with. And when there's no light, there's no peace. As one trips when he's walking in the dark. So lighting Shabbat candles is in order to be able to see, in order to have enjoyment, in order to have honor, in order to enjoy the Shabbat day. Okay? So this is what is coming out from here. That we have Kavod Shabbat, we have Oneg Shabbat, we have Shalom Bayit. Perhaps all of them, in my mind, are sort of overlapping each other, and all of them exist for the reason of why we light the Shabbat candles. The Aruch HaShulchan takes a little different approach. What's the difference between Kavod and Oneg, right? We have from the Gra, based on the Rambam, that Kavod is something you do before Shabbat, and Oneg Shabbat, the light and enjoying of Shabbat, is something you do on Shabbat. Says the Aruch HaShulchan, a little different. He says, in the place where people eat, lighting is part of Kavod Shabbat. And in other rooms, it's part of Oneg Shabbat. So if you light in the dining room, you're giving honor to Shabbat. If you're lighting, and you should light in the other parts of the house so you don't go ahead and hit your foot everywhere you're walking, and you don't walk into walls and break stuff, that is Oneg Shabbat. That's what he wants to make the differentiation between Kavod and Oneg. The Mishnah Berurah, he writes about having lights in all the rooms. However, you only make the bracha, he says, Miu ha-bracha tevarach al haner shebemokum achila. Yes, it's true. You want to have more light around the house. But the proper place to make the bracha is where you're going to be eating. All right? In the kitchen, dining room area. That's where the bracha should be made. Okay? Take a look at the Ramah.
So one bracha for the whole house.
We'll get into that in a moment. So you do not have to necessarily light at your table. Okay? Especially if you have little kids who are going to knock the table and throwing things or moving things, or kids are trying to get things from the table and things are going to back. So it's a safety hazard, right? It's a fire hazard. Again, like we said today before Mincha and Aravit, just because you're doing a mitzvah doesn't mean you forget about safety. Safety is paramount always, even when you're doing a mitzvah. And if it's not safe, perhaps you shouldn't do that mitzvah until you find out how to do it safely. So that's why many have, like in my house, we have the island, which is next to the table, and we put the candlesticks on there. We put a tray there, a whole place. It's there. It's separated. You can see it from the table, so you can enjoy it. You should be able to see it from where you're eating. It should be where you're there, so you can enjoy it. So we're gonna see that might be a problem. That might be a problem because you're supposed to enjoy your Shabbat candles.
2 hours, 1.5 hours. No, it's 1 hour.
Yeah.
You leave the house,
Yeah.
you come back, it's only 1 hour.
Yeah, you're gonna have to see. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get to it. Mayor is very good. You're going to need the halacha is going to be that you need to enjoy from your candles. It means on Shabbat you have to come back and use those candles. You must. If you didn't do that, it's the bracha levatala. If you said the bracha on that.
Your wife.
If nobody uses it, if the wife uses it, the kids use it, that's fine. We're talking about nobody uses it. Yeah.
Question now.
Okay, check it, everybody. Quiet. What? I'm gonna say it again. What I said. If you lit a candle for Shabbat, you said bracha. You left, right? Before Shabbat, you lit it. You left, and no one's using that candle. It's the bracha levatala. Okay, so then that's fine. So that's fine. Someone's using it.
Eating by somebody.
So they're going to see. That's the enjoyment that they're using it. That's fine. As long as someone's using this candle. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
But since we have lights, electric lights, by the living room,
Very good. Very good.
Have...
Avram, we're going to get to there in a few minutes.
If you put the candle and get to that number, and you get back over.
Yeah. If no one used it, yeah. When you came back, it was still on? So then it's bracha levatala. Okay. So let's take a look quickly just to review what we said. So we're going to review it from this book, The Laws of Shabbat. And he writes over here, both men and women have an obligation to have light in their home on Shabbat. Reason can be oneg, kavod, shalom bayit. So everything that we saw, he sums it up over here. In Halacha 3, he writes over here on page 74 in The Laws of Shabbat. The mitzvah of Hadlakat is a great mitzvah. And one who's especially careful in observing this mitzvah merits to have children and children-in-law who are taller scholars and will marry Torah scholars. So sons and son-in-laws who will be Talmidei Chachamim if you're careful with the mitzvah of Hadlakat Nerot. In fact, he writes over here, the time of lighting Shabbat candles is especially a very special time for prayers to be answered. Therefore, after a woman is finished lighting, she should put her hands out and pray for her health, her children's health, her husband's health, success in the world, success in Torah. It's a very apropos time. And another halacha he brings over here in the Laws of Shabbat, it's also praiseworthy to give tzedakah before lighting the candles. And many women do this. They prepare, coins, pennies, whatever it is, and before they light the candles, to give tzedakah. Now, we're going to see this again next week, but just briefly speaking outside for a moment, we know, he says over here in the halachas brought down, both men and women are chayiv to light Hadlakat Nerot. But however, women do it Why do women get the mitzvah of lighting the Nerot of Shabbat? Ah, so he says very good, Isaac.
My wife said the chat is not, she can't see it. There's a problem.
No, it's on. She has to click on the Zoom. Many people are on. So he says over here that Chava, right? What did Chava do? Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. The fire of Hashem, the light of Hashem, is the neshama of a person, Adam. And when she got convinced and influenced by the snake to make the sin, she put out the light of humanity somewhat, right? Death came into the world. So in order to attack in that, every week she brings more light into the world by lighting the Nerot Shabbat. So it's a very big tikkun that they make when they light the Nerot. Okay, moving on. How many candles should one light? Okay, so we'll start with this. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Ner daluk b'Shabbat. Right? Person has to have a candle burning in their house. That means what? Isaac says, one.
What number you are?
We're on page 79, source 15.
15, okay.
Umadlik et hanir, and he lights a candle. And this is Onik Shabbat, says the Shulchan Aruch. Says the Mishnah Berurah in source 16. The truth is, one candle is sufficient for lighting on Shabbat. And if you only have a certain amount of money, you should buy one candle and the rest of the money spend on food, says the Mishnah Berurah. Okay? So we're seeing Halacha L'Maaseh said the truth is one candle is more than enough for Shabbat. However, says the Kolba on page 80, he says that I found in the Midrash Tanchuma that everything on Shabbat comes in two. Kol mili Shabbat kafu. Everything is double. Shnei kevasim. We say that we bring in the korbanot. We say mizmor shir lo-yom ha-Shabbat. Mizmor is a song and shir is a song. We say it twice. Lechem mishnah, two breads. Zachor v'shamor. Right? V'nir sha'aminig al zeh lahadlik shnei nerot. Because everything on Shabbat comes in twos. That's why we light two candles. Right? And this is also a Gemara that says that Rav Shimon Bar Yochai came out of the cave, right, the second time around, right? He came out of the cave with his son, and they saw someone, Erev Shabbat, running with hadassim in his hands. They say, what do you have in your hands? He says, I have special hadassim for Shabbat. They look at him and say, but why do you have two hadassim? What does he answer? Zachor v'shamor, right? Two. There's always two on Shabbat. So therefore, we light two candles. That's the minhag of lighting two candles, comes from this idea. Says the Shulchan Aruch, one should be careful to make beautiful candle.
That was two candles, one for the wife, one for the husband.
Ah, okay. He says some make two wicks, one corresponding to Zachor, one corresponding to Shamor. Now, here comes the Ramah. And the Ramah says, and he says, in Ashkenaz, we light 3, 4, we light many more. You keep going. You can add. Right? And says the Mishnah Berurah, there are people who have a minhag to light the yesh nohagin lahadlik shiva nerot. They light 7 candles. Keneged shivati mehashvua, the 7 days of the week. The yesh asara, and there are those who light 10 candles for Shabbat. Keneged aseret hadibrot, in corresponding to the 10 commandments. Says Rav Mordechai Eliyahu in his Kitur Shulchan Aruch, he writes, and there's a minhag lahadlik kimispar anshe habayit. You're right. The Alki also says that is not a Sephardic minhag to light according to the number of children, number of people in the house.
But it doesn't come from Rav Mordechai Eliyahu.
No, he just quotes it. It's another minhag. He's quoting that's another minhag. But it's he says it's not a Sephardic minhag. However, it's a very nice minhag. A lot of people do that. I believe my wife does that. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe so. I believe she lights for the children. So every child gets another candle. Well, my wife, Baruch Hashem, she lights a lot more candles too. A lot more zakutim, a lot more candles. And it's good to have a lot of candles on Shabbat. So that's actually, he brings the earlier source is the Likute Meharich, and he brings this down over here. Right? You see Rabbi Chaim on page 81, source 21. V'hineh minhag hanoshim b'asher yulad lahem beinu bat mosifin ner echad. They add one more to Shabbat every Shabbat because why? Remember, in the zchut of lighting Shabbat candles, you get Torah scholars, right? Both son-in-laws and sons will become to the chachamim in the zchut of lighting candles. See, each one brings more light into the world. Each child brings more light into the world. So you light another candle. Continue lighting. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. What do we do? Whoever does that? Anyone know? I don't know. Continue?
It's only for the children.
Only for the child. Okay.
Because Ella Davar Sof.
Oh, everybody's doing something else.
Ella Davar Sof.
Okay. Hold on 1 second, Rabotai. I'm just trying to read for you from the laws of Shabbat. Laws of Shabbat, the sefer over here, from Rabbi Yonatan Naxon. He writes as follows: a woman who's accustomed to lighting certain number of candles every Erev Shabbat may not retract her custom without legitimate reason. Meaning that if you have a custom to light a lot, it's you have to make Hatarat Nidarim because you started lighting it. Therefore, if a woman wants to begin to light more candles, it's proper she should say, I'm doing it bli neder, without a neder. Because if it comes a time she can't do it, or she doesn't want it, not the time she can't do it. If she doesn't want to do it, she's going to have to make Hatarat Nidarim. Okay? But says the Shmir Shabbat Kilchata, source 22 on page 81. When is all this said that you can light more candles? You should light more candles. But if you're lighting it in her house, right? Don't go to someone's house, right, as a guest and say, hello, I light 20 candles. The whole thing, right? Right? That's not proper. Says the Shmir Shabbat Kilchata. If you're not sitting in your house, then you should just light two, right? And you don't need to Darim for that. Because you really want to light more, but you're by somebody else. So you're lighting only two, right? So bring your own candles. Bring your own candles. Bring your own candles. But if you're at
my kids when they come to me,
they pay
only
you, no?
two.
They only
When
like
I go to them, they make for the whole family.
Yeah, so that's Shmir Shabbat Kilchata. The Halacha Brewer says this also as that if a woman in a situation she only has two candles, such as she at someone's house for Shabbat, and she's always accustomed to lighting more, she's permitted to light only two candles for the week. Since she's only doing so on a one-time basis, no Hatarat Nidarim is required. It's just the situation that she's in. She really wants to light more. She's a guest in someone's house, so she only has two candles, and that's okay. All right.
Light the candle.
It's not a doraita. It is a mitzvah derabanan lichvod onig and shalom bayit to light the candles. That's what we saw. Okay, and the mitzvah is one candle, but the minhag is two. And therefore, a person should always do at least two. Yeah, it's a mitzvah derabanan. The minhag is is one. The halacha is one. The minhag is two. Okay, fine. Okay, now here comes a very scary part. All right, what's the scary part? If someone forgot to light, the ladies know that there's a knas, there's a penalty against them if they forget to light the candle. Right? They're supposed to bring more light into the world, and they forgot to bring in light that Shabbat. So what's their knas? Says the Sefer Maharil. She should be careful that if she forgot to light, she should add a similar amount to which she used to light until now to each mitzvah lamp, which really means she is to light an extra candle from now on every week. Okay? Till ain't ladav herself until the end of time. She lights an extra candle. Says the Ramah, source 24. If she forgot to light one Shabbat, the next Shabbat, and for forever, she lights 3 candles, right? Because you're allowed to add more and more, but you're not allowed to subtract. Okay? Now, what does this mean? She forgot to light. So says the Mishnah Brura, but if she was an oinus, something prevented her from lighting, right? She wanted to light the candle. and the baby wouldn't stop crying. The baby wouldn't stop eating. The kids were driving her upside down, right? She forgot. This totally came out of her mind. Well, guess what? She doesn't have to light another candle after that. Because it's only if you forgot because you forgot. You just got busy with something else, but it was your... Here, it's not her ability. The kids drove her insane, right? The ambulance had to be called. The fire almost went out. There's all these different reasons of what could have happened. Here in the laws of Shabbat, on page 98, he gives examples of what could be considered an onus. What he writes over here on page 98, 105, he writes about if a woman does not have to light extra candles, she got to light for reasons that are beyond her control. For example, she decided to take a nap somewhere in mid-afternoon, and whatever happened, she planned to wake up, and she didn't. And she went sleeping way past Shkia, so it's not her fault. The clock stopped working, right? She put the alarm on, and the clock broke. Not her fault. She was busy with some work at home, and she forgot. She ran out of oil or candles. Time to light the candles. She goes to the pantry, no olive oil, no candles. It's not considered just lighting the candle. If she was stuck somewhere before the onset of Shabbat, if she accidentally lit early, it was too early, and she lit, and she didn't realize it was too early, also in this case, she would not have to light an extra candle. Now,
Yeah, also from the penalty.
of lighting an extra. However, there's another question they have to deal with here. The David Tzvi Hoffman deals with the issue. A woman forgot to light the candle, and the husband realizes it, and he lights the candles. And he lights the candles. Does she still get a knas? Does she still have to light another one next week?
No.
So here in the Shal Sheshuva Melamed Lohoil, he says, no, you still have to give her a knas. Because she didn't light it. She was still negligent. Shaya. She was negligent. She didn't light. Okay, the husband lit. Beautiful. But she didn't light. She needs to get penalized, and you make her light an extra cat. If it's onus, it's onus. It's not onus. She just didn't get to it. Whatever.
Even they say that when a woman and man they marry, they become one unit.
Yeah.
Left hand lighted or right hand lighted.
But this is what he said. Now,
No, but this is
Rav Wozner
her mitzvah.
Rav Wozner in Source 27. Yeah, that's what he's going. He's going, it's his mitzvah. The Shas Shum Alaman Loyal says it's her mitzvah. It says it's her mitzvah. She missed it. She still gets knas. Still gets penalized. Now, the Shas Shum Shem Levi, Rav Shmuel Wozner, he says, hold on a second. What is the source of this knas, of this penalty?
Exactly.
It's not in the Talmud. It's not an early source. He says it's a later source. He says, I don't know what to do. There's no Rishonim about this, he says. Look on page 84 in the second paragraph over there. It's difficult to answer a question where there's no source in the writings of the Rishonim. So I don't know what to tell you. If she forgot and he lit it, I don't know. He says there's no early sources that deal with this penalty. This is a late Chazal penalty. So I'm not sure what to do.
It's not she's penalized, he penalized.
Because she's got to pay for another candle. The Chazon Avadia, so Chacham Avadia Yosef, he writes a very good reason why almost today you'll never have to have this penalty of lighting another candle. Right? So he says as follows.
Because we have lights.
In our times, when you use electricity to light up the entire house, if a woman forgot to light oil or wax candles, she doesn't need to add anything. Why? Because we fulfill the mitzvah of Onik Shabbos, right? To enjoy your meal. Kavod Shabbat, having light in the house for Shabbat. Shalom Bayit, not to hit your feet when you're walking around, not seeing where you're going. You fulfill all that through the electric lights. And there's no disturbance of Shalom Bayit in the house, right? Even though she didn't say a bracha on the Shabbat, on the lighting, on the electricity, because she just forgot to do it, but still, the light is there. Therefore, she didn't detract from the honor, the enjoyment, and the Shalom Bayit in the house. She didn't detract from it. So we're going to Mekayim, you have to do an assay, you have to do something. But he says we don't penalize her, we don't penalty her, because light is available. Rabbi Ribiat, in his 39 Malachot, says the same thing for Ashkenazim as well. According to some poskim, the penalty does not apply if any candle was lit, either by the woman or someone else, or by any others who were home for Shabbat. And since there's light in the room with the electricity, he says many are lenient, and therefore, almost today, if any woman will ask, a Rav, I forgot to light candles. Should I light a candle every week? Most times they'll say no. Especially for Sardim, you don't have to light another candle. There's electricity in the home, and even Ashkenazim are also agreeing to this. Okay, here in the laws of Shabbat, he writes as follows: She forgot to light Shabbat candles, but still had an electric light in the home. Since technically she fulfilled the obligation of having candles, she doesn't have to be penalized. However, and this is a very important part over here, some poskim point out this is only the case if she turned on the electric lights at that time that it was possible to light Shabbat candles. It means after Plaga Mincha. If she lit it, she turned on the candles after Plaga Mincha, then you can say it was done for Shabbat. If the electric lights are on since the morning and she just left it on, then perhaps you can't count it as Shabbat candles at all. Maybe she still should get the penalty. Okay?
Well,
So whether we hold like this or not, I'm not entirely sure. But that differentiation exists when she put on those candles. Right? Because remember, Tosfot said that according to Rabbeinu Tam, even if you had a candle lit all day, which you would think is enough for Onik Shabbat, you'll have to shut it off and relight it for Shabbat. So you're telling me she has electric lights in the house, but when was it put on? Right? But he says this b'shem some poskim, okay, and here in the laws of Shabbat. So therefore, not entirely sure what to do over here.
usually most of the people, they prepare all the lights for Shabbat. So right before Shabbat.
Right. Don't get into this situation. Okay.
So how do you work with Hanukkah candles and Hanukkah when it was on for 8 days? How did that work?
So we have a question about what 8 days.
8 days, that light was a miracle.
Yeah.
It never stopped burning.
Okay.
So how did that work with Shabbat?
It was just a miracle. That's the menorah. This is Shabbat.
Turn it off, all right.
Shabbat cat lights are different than menorah lights. Don't get us confused. But we had a question over here. We had a question on the Zoom. The question on the Zoom was, what about Yom Tov? Someone forgot to light candles on Yom Tov. Do they have to light a second candle? It happens sometimes. When does it happen? Simchat Torah nights, right? It's the second night of Yom Tov. You have to light candles. But what happens? Everyone's in the shul. They're dancing, they're singing, they're eating, they're drinking, having a good time. They're coming home. They're coming home. But they didn't light. Even they came home, they made Suda, and they forgot to light candles. Any candles.
Oh.
It happens.
No, you take candles from the last night, the 24-hour one.
Do they have to, if they forgot to light Hadlakat near Yom Tov, for Yom Tov, whether the first day or second day, they do not have to light another candle. Okay? They never have to light. For Yom Tov, if you miss Yom Tov, there's no penalty.
They don't need
There's no penalty. There's no penalty for Yom Tov. The Sefer Maharil, who brought the penalty, never brought it about Yom Tov. He brought it about Shabbat. Okay. So we're not going to extend this non-Rishon penalty, right, to Yom Tov. That's
Very emotional.
Because Yom Tov we have is Simcha Yetera, so the candles, if they're not there, but you still have a Simcha.
The question on the Zoom is, what about Shabbat and Yom Tov? So Shabbat is Shabbat. So you'll have to deal with Shabbat. And obviously, if you have lights in the house, you wouldn't have to light another. You won't get penalty. Yes, Markil.
They had a question there on the chat. What if they use the timer to turn on the lights? They say after plug mincha, like we mentioned before. They didn't.
But is he lighting the lights? That's the question. Does the timer consider that I'm lighting the lights?
They put a timer for it to turn on right before Shabbat.
Yeah, I don't think it works. I don't think it works. It has to be a Maisa a person's doing. Like doing Maisa.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. She's an onus. She's an anus. It's not her fault. The electric candle. We'll get into that in a minute. Okay, page 85. We're gonna deal with that. We're not up to there. We're gonna get to it. Not today. Let's not get confused. Okay, what? We're going to talk about that also. Talk about going to hotels. Everything's coming up. Page 85. Page 85. What should one use to light the Shabbat candle? So we do this every Friday night. We say, what can you light? What can you can't light? Right? We read this whole Mishnah of Masechah Shabbat and the whole Mishnah over there. So it comes out that what you want to use is oils and fuels and wicks that burn very nicely. Why you don't want to use something that's choppy? That's not so clear. What you gonna do if it's flickering? You're gonna try to fix it. You're gonna try to be attacking it. You try to do something to it, and that's usher on Shabbos. So you don't want to do that.
And also, it doesn't bring shalom.
And it doesn't bring shalom bayis. Imagine you're eating your food. I'm putting my fork, and then by the time I'm putting it, the light goes off. Everything fell off my fork again, and then I have to pick it up again. It's not fun. I want to have consistent lights. Right? If you ever sit and the light going on and off, flickering. Right? The kids are playing with the lights. How does it feel? No one likes it. You want to have steady light. So it's not Kavod Shabbat. So it's a problem that you might come to fix it. So what? Anything you use.
Anything but oil.
Anything you use should provide you a consistent bright light. Whether it's wax, whether it's oil, whether it's kerosene. In fact, kerosene, the paraffin that they use is very bright light. There's no issue. It's very good to use it.
All of those lamps.
Those lamp ones, the clear one, right? They're very bright, they're very light. There's no issue with using them. Right. The main is olive oil, and the best olive oil, right? And you don't need to buy the ones with the Hebrew lettering on it. As long as it's real, pure, extra virgin olive oil, you can use that for lighting candles so people go to the stores and the supermarkets before Hanukkah and they buy the Shemen Zayit Zach that it says on the bottle. And they think that's the one they have to use for Chanukiah. You don't. Probably that was not even it's probably not as good as an extra virgin olive oil you're going to go and buy in Costco. That one's lights really bright. The ones they're selling you in those bottles with the Hebrew lettering are usually not the best. Okay? So you want to go and buy real extra virgin olive oil, and that's what you use. Okay?
Not for human consumption.
Yeah. It's not good oil. Not good oil. It's not good quality. It's sediment. There's other stuff. They didn't do it processed right.
After they made the French.
And people get very confused. They go to the store. They see it's sold. Exactly. Get the best olive oil and finitos. Yeah, if you're gonna do it right, you want to use olive oil, get the best olive oil. Okay. You can use it as long as it's clear light. It doesn't matter what it is. We don't paskin that way. We paskin that you can use naphtha as well. Anything that provides a consistent light, you can use. In fact, I will tell you, take a look at source 32. Source 32. Rabbi Shmuel Omer Eimad Lekin be'itran. You don't want to use itran. Why not? That's tar. Mipnei kavod Shabbat. Chachamim matirin. And the Chachamim said you can use all types of oils. Rabbi Tarfon says, Eimad Lekin el b'shemen zayit bilvad. That's Rabbi Tarfon. Tarfon says, use Shemen Zayit. What's the reason Rabbi Shmuel said you can't use Itran? Why can't you use this? Itran is tar. So Rava said, you want to know why? Because it has a bad odor, bad smell. And what's going to happen? You want to eat your food, and the bad smell is coming out of the candles. You're walking out of there. So you didn't.
Let's fight.
It's not going to be good. So Abaya said, who cares? Let him leave. I have to light a candle. The candle's lit. Maybe that's the difference between kavod and onig Shabbos. Kavod, there has to be light. Onig, I have to enjoy it. Maybe there's that difference between kavod and onig. Okay. Says the Tosfot, and that's the halacha. For the Shabbat candle, it is obvious that the best way to fulfill it is with olive oil. To anyone, and we saw, if you're careful about Shabbat candles, you get children of Talmidei Chachamim. So you want to do it right? You use the best olive oil. That's what the Tosfot says. It's drawn by the wick more easily than all other fuels. The Mishnah says this. You can use all types of oils, except those that don't burn nicely. However, the Shulchan Aruch also says, Shemen Zayit mitzvah min ha'mubchar. It's the best to light the Shabbat candles, not with those that say Shabbat candles and they sell you the wax candles. But just because it's labeled Shabbat or Hanukkah doesn't mean it's the best thing or the right thing. Someone's making a business, they're marketing, and they're putting names on stuff, and they want to sell it to you. And not saying you can't use it, you can use it, but you want to learn the halacha to know what's the best in order what to really get. Okay? Says the Mishnah Brura. He writes, if olive oil is not available, on page 87, it's preferable to perform the mitzvah with other oils whose light is clear rather than a wax candle. Better oils than a wax candle. A wax candle is preferable to a candle made from tallow. That's some sort of fat of an animal. As the candle is light, is clear and pretty, right? And everything depends on the candle. Everything depends on the oil. It depends how pure it is, how good it is, how bright it is. It all depends on the material that you're using. It's more, he's saying that it, at least in his day, the oils would burn not more nicer than candles. Okay, so today, right, as long as it's nicer, it's nice light, it's fine. Here in the laws of Shabbat, again, Rabbi Nakson writes, one should use olive oil for Hadlakat Nerot, preferably. One who's meticulous to light with olive oil merits to see their children become Torah scholars. Others state that one will merit long life. You don't care about your children, you get long life yourself. You can get both. However, other oils, such as cottonseed or canola oil, may also be used for Hadlakat Nerot, especially if the oil burns very clearly. Okay, anything that burns clearly could be used. The best material to use is olive oil. Okay, now we're coming to the question that's already been asked, and that's the question: what about electric lights? Can I go over to the switch, set it down, say the bracha, la'alik ner Shabbat, turn on the switch? Now the lights came on. Can I be yoteh Hadlakat Nerot with electric lights? So we'll start with the Rav Gachavar Gun. Look in the box over there, that orange beige box on page 87, the second paragraph there. Some postkins, such as Rav Yosef Rosen, the Rav Gachavar Gaon, hold that one does not fulfill the mitzvah with electric lights. Because when Chazal said you have to light lights, they were talking about fire. That's the Rav Gachavar Gaon. Rav Ben Zion Abba Shaul, right, the Or Letzion, he writes, you know what? It depends what type of electricity you use. He says if you're using battery-powered electric, then that's fine. Why? He says because battery, the fuel is there. The battery is the fuel. You start it, and the battery's fuel continues to provide light to it. But if I turn on a current, the 1 second I turned it on is what the current that sends it to electricity. But then it's a different electric that keeps going in. It's not what you did. And therefore, you can't use current electricity that comes through a current, that comes through an outside source. Only battery powered, says Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul. However, he says, by the way, this is the position of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, also held like this, only battery powered lights. In fact, in a lot of the hospitals, they give out the Bikur Cholim, they give out tea light candles that have a switch. It's battery powered. So for the battery power, that's good. Okay? According to Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul, yes. You can say a bracha on electric candles for Shabbat, Hanukkah, don't get it mixed up, for Shabbat, if it's battery powered. Okay? Rav Moshe Feinstein, he writes that one should not rely, look at source 38 on the second and third line, towards the end of the second line. Rav Moshe Feinstein rules that one should not rely upon electric lights for the fulfillment of mitzvah. He writes that in circumstances with no other choices, one should use them, but no bracha should be recited. So Rav Moshe Feinstein said you can use it, but no bracha. Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul said if it's battery, you can make bracha on it. Now we're going to come. Source 39. And he writes a very interesting idea. He says, what's the reason we're lighting the candle? Not because of fire. Right? That was the Rav Gachavar Gaon. He said, the Chum said you have to light fire, you have to light. That means in their day it was fire, it's fire. Somebody says, no. The whole reason is in order to have kavod Shabbat, onik Shabbat, shalom bayit. So there's light in the house. Well, guess what? Electricity gives you light in the house. You can use it. You can make a bracha on it. Even electric currents that come from the wall, come from the outside source. That's how far he goes. That's how far he goes. And he says that you can use it. Here, I'll take the Alka Joseph English edition of Hilchot Shabbat on page 183, and we'll read what he says on Halacha 5 on page 183 in the Alka Joseph English edition. He writes as follows. In a situation where it's impossible to kindle oil lamps or candles, one may recite the blessing and turn on the electric lights as Shabbat begins. You hear that? You could turn on electric lights, not battery powered only. That's the Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul. That's Rosh Hashanah and Arba. According to Chacham Ovadia, you can turn on the lights and make a bracha.
So in the hospital, according to Rabbi Ovadia said, bracha.
Yeah. Now, says, look at the Yechevet Da'at, also Chacham Ovadia in Yechevet Da'at, source 40, where it's possible to obtain, like we said, if it's possible to get it, then you should only make sure candles on fire. That's the proper way. But when reciting the bracha before lighting, it's correct to have in mind the bracha should also cover switching on electric light. So, you're right. At home, when you make the bracha on the candles, you should have in mind the electric lights as well, right? If most women, the Chacham always says a woman should light the candles, right, and not accept Shabbat when they light the candles. They accept Shabbat after they light the candles. So he said what you can do is light the candles and don't accept Shabbat and go around the house, turn on the lights you need. That's the proper way of doing it. According to Ashkenazim, they would turn on the lights they want beforehand, light the Shabbat candles, and then make the bracha. But as long as they're lighting they're turning on the electric lights before Shabbat, because you're using it for Onik Shabbos, covered Shabbos, Shalom Bayit. So therefore, put it on around the time you light the candles. Nevertheless, when it's impossible to obtain oil or wax candle by any means, it's possible to make the bracha and switch on the electric light. And one fulfills the obligation of lighting this way.
I don't understand. He lights the candle.
Yeah.
And then you're saying afterwards you should go all around the house and put
Because we don't accept Shabbat when we light the candles.
But it's
How do we light the candles? Sfaradim, we make the bracha and then we light the candles.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why Ashkenazim do the other way around. Because they're saying, I'm accepting Shabbat. How am I lighting? So I light first, then I make the bracha. We don't do that. We said make the bracha, light the candle. You still didn't accept Shabbat. You accept Shabbat when you say I'm accepting Shabbat.
You don't accept Shabbat only if you say you.
No, but you're supposed to say that once a year. They're supposed to make it once a year. They're supposed to make that statement. They're supposed to make that statement once a year, saying they're not accepting Shabbat when they light the candles. That's what we're supposed to do. We'll go and maybe next week we'll go into that.
The same thing like when you say Kol Nidrei and you say all the Darim whatever. So how come every time you do something you say blin?
Very good.
Maybe it's gonna work.
Very good. Fine, you have a point there. But the idea is that you can turn on the lights and make the bracha on the electric light. Now, there's one big talk over here about turning on electric lights. Which electric light are we talking about? Is fluorescent and LED a problem? Why? Why would it be a problem? Why are you bringing it up? Why are you bringing it up?
We don't need the fire. We need the light.
In an incandescent bulb, there's a filament there, right? And the filament gets hot, it lights, and that's what gives the light. In fluorescent, there's a gas that's in there or something that makes the light go on. An LED, I'm not even sure how that works. Okay, it's a crystal. It's not firelight. Yeah. So there is machloket over here in the poskim. If the LED light, so sometimes they give the T lights in the hospitals and it's battery powered, so it's good. It's good. But what type of light is it? Is it an incandescent light, or is it an LED or a fluorescent light?
Who say it has to be fire? We're talking about.
So you're saying very good. It says you need Onik Shabbos, you need Kavod Shabbos, you need Shalom Bayis. So who cares? Very good. Very good. So Reb Chaim is saying very good, and I believe that's what the machloket is about. The machloket is it just I need the light and I have light? I don't care if it comes out of fluorescent gas, if it comes out of crystals. It's just there's light there, and therefore I can make the bracha no matter on what light I'm using. Or does it have to be somewhat fire-like. And the incandescent light bulb has that, and the other ones doesn't. So which one is it? Okay, so that's a very good a horror over there. So technically, the best way to fulfill, if you have to use electric lights, best to probably get a battery-powered light, because then you also go according to Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. You're going to be yotze through more opinions, and best to have an incandescent bulb, because this way you'll also be filling more of opinions. However, there is an opinion that any electric, even the current, and even any type of bulb, there are opinions that say that's also okay. Okay, but if you want to be, if you have that, you know you're going to have to use an electric light, try to get an electric light that's more acceptable according to more opinions. Uh-huh.
The electric light you want to put on is only in the bathroom.
Very good. It's going to come up. And you're allowed to do that and make a bracha on that as well. We'll see. Okay, it's going to come up. Okay?
You outside the bathroom.
Yeah.
You light on the bathroom.
Yeah.
only.
Yeah. You could do it. You could do it. We'll get into it.
You didn't see.
Okay. One other idea before we move on to the next section. It's not a chiyuv to do this. It's not a chiyuv. You don't have to do it, but it's very praiseworthy.
What?
It's praiseworthy to shut off the lights in the room when one is lighting the Shabbat candle, right? You want to have the light from the Shabbat candle. You want to enjoy it. You want to see it. You want to make it that distinction that I'm doing this. If you have all the lights on and you turn on the Shabbat candles, you don't really notice it. So the best way to do is to shut off the lights in that area and then light the candles. However, it's not an obligation. You don't have to do that. And if the ladies don't want to do that, you don't have to start forcing them to do this thing. You tell them it's a nice thing. It might not be practical. Shabbat's very early. I don't have time to go into the switch, shut it off, turn it on. It's a whole to-do, right? So you don't have to put it on, but it is praiseworthy if it could be done. Okay? Fine. Now we go into where should one light? Where are we supposed to light the Shabbat candle?
Just said it in the kitchen, no?
All right, in the dining room area, right? In the eating area. So it says the Sefer Aguda. He writes over here. All right.
The halakha, the Shulchan Aruch says.
This goes back to Meir's question earlier. This goes back to Meir's question earlier. He says, in the summer, I want to eat on my porch. I want to eat in my gazebo. I want to eat outside. But I lit my candles inside. Says the Sefer Aguda, well, if you're doing that, make sure you have very long candles. So when you come back home, the candles are still there, so you're using them. That's what the Sefer Aguda writes. You want to go out for a long time? Well, make sure you're having long lights, long candles. So when you come back, it's still there. Because otherwise, Vim lo yasu kain, heavy bracha levatala. The bracha levatala, because you didn't use the candle. The whole point of having Shabbat candles is to use them. Onik Shabbat, Kavod Shabbat, Shalom Bayit. Right? So if you're not using it, why you make a bracha on it for?
But this light that you have at the candle, you're not using. Right?
So that's why I say. That's why I say shut it off first, and then turn it back on.
You turn it on, yeah. But when you
and that's why we say when you make the bracha, it's not only on the candles, it's also on the electric you're turning on.
And it's sitting burning. This is over.
And if you didn't do all that, there is another benefit from having candles. You know, some fancy restaurants they put candles on the table, right? It gives you romantica, it gives you ambience, right? It makes you look nicer. There is an extra shalom bayit, extra kavod, extra onig, just having a candle nearby. Okay, so you're right. You can say these things, but I'll give you another answer back there. Okay, but let's look further. Says the Shulchan Aruch in source 42 on page 91. For those who light in the corners of the house, but they eat in the courtyard, if the candles are not long enough to burn until the night, it's a bracha levatala. You have to have used it. Okay? Very good. So either you're going to use it at some point, Shabbat comes in, so you're not leaving right away, right? So that's fine. Or you'll have long candles and you come back and you'll use it, right? Then that's fine too. But if you're lighting it before Shabbat, you walk out and you're coming back and it's gone, can't do that. Bracha levatala. Can't light with a bracha. You can light without a bracha. Some say the Kiddush should only be recited by the light of the candle, says the Shulchan Aruch on source 43. Some say Kiddush is not dependent on the candle. Says the Shulchan Aruch that you could recite Kiddush anywhere. It doesn't have to be next to the candles, but it is a greater enjoyment, and it's proper to do it next to the candle, but you could do it away from the candles too. You don't have to see the candles when you're making Kiddush, but it's better too. It's better to see it. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says a little different. Mishnah Berurah says, no, you have to eat where the candles are. You have to make kiddush where the candles are. You can't leave. The candle's there for a reason. Unless it's a great distress for you, right? The room where you lit the candles has 1,000,000 flies now, so you can't sit there. Okay, then you can go. Mishnah Berurah says, but otherwise you should sit by the candle. Now, what happens? I'm sitting at home and I have the lights on. The candle's not really helping me. Still, that is enjoyment from the candles, but still the candles should be on. By the way, this is a big thing when it comes to early Shabbat. People don't pay attention to this. They're making early Shabbat, right? And it's still daytime. The candles are lit. Perhaps we should have the candles go into when it's a little darker outside, when candles make a little bit more of a difference, perhaps. Okay, that's something we should pay attention to. One of the lights in a place where no use will be made by the light has not fulfilled its obligation. So if you go and you light it in a closet or in the oven and you shut it off and no one sees it, you didn't do anything. You can't make a bracha like that. Piskei Teshuvot writes over here, one who lights candles in their home or where they're sleeping, but leave before dark and eat in a different place. If when they return, the candles are no longer burning, the bracha will be in vain. So everybody's question. I lit my candle. I went away. I came back. Candles are gone. Guess what? You did bracha levatala. You made the bracha. Can't do it that way. Rather, one must be careful to derive benefit from the candles once it's already dark. Says the Piskei Teshuvot. It has to be dark already when you're enjoying the candles. You have to enjoy it for a second. Yeah, just for a moment. But it has to be done on Shabbat. Anyone. Could be any household member. Doesn't have to be the person living, doesn't have to be the husband, any household member. Someone has to have a use from that candle. It's only kavod shalom. Okay? Yes, then it's not a bracha levatala. That's right. So most times when you're a guest, you don't go right away, right? You wait the candle, you go after the tefillah, the husband picks you up, you go together, whatever it is. So that's fine. But in the summer, it plays out. In the summer, you're taking Shabbat in early, before it's dark. You're lighting the candles. Say again? What do you mean? You sleeping? We're going to deal with that in a moment. We're going to be dealing with that in a moment. That may be problematic for Sfaradim, for bracha, in someone else's house.
Both places.
We'll deal with that in a minute. Let's move on. Hold on. Let's learn the Hilchot Shabbat of Rabbi Nachson over here. He writes on page 80, Halacha 32. One may eat on a porch in a separate room, the room that the candles have been lit in, provided that after the meal, one sits by the candles and benefits from them. Very important thing with the mitzvah of Hadlakat Nerot, you have to have some benefit from them. Now we come to the other question. May multiple people light in the same location? Okay? We have guests.
That's the question.
Not only hotel. All his son-in-laws, all our children come with their spouses, and they're all lighting candles. Right? Is that allowed to everyone make their own bracha or not?
Why not? Everybody enjoy the.
So, says the Shalosh Tshuva Maharil. Everyone can make their own bracha. Even though there's a lot of lights. Because every light brings more oneg, more kavod. That is the Maharil. Shulchan Aruch does not say this. Shulchan Aruch says no. He's misupik. He says, I'm not sure if it's allowed. Therefore, don't do it. If multiple people are in one location, not everyone can make a bracha. Only one person makes the bracha. It's wrong. According to Sfaradim, you cannot do it. Ashkenazim could. The Ramah says we don't follow the practice of the Shulchan Aruch. It should be the host of the house should make the bracha.
What about the hotel?
Same thing with the hotel. Same thing with hotel. One person makes it. Okay, I didn't get there yet. Give me a minute. You're saying right. So it comes out in one location of lighting, according to Sfaradim, only one person makes the bracha. So if we're going to our parents' house, right, or your children are coming to your house, only one person for Sfaradim makes the bracha. not everyone else. Okay, only one person. Take a look here in the Hilchot of the Shabbat over here on page 84. When one is a guest, look what he writes. A married couple staying in their parents' or in-laws' home fulfills the obligation to lighting of the mother of the household. However, and this is what Rabbi Yosef is bringing up, if they have their own room and they're going to sleep in that own room, then they could make a bracha if they light in their own bedroom. And it's a private room, no one else can walk into. But you have to have enjoyment from those candles. You can't light it and then go out to the Suda and come back when it's gone. You have to light it, enjoy it.
But they're gonna sleep with it. So
If it's on, yeah.
Sure,
Or stay there after you light it for a little bit so you enjoy it from it, and then go down. Then you can make a separate bracha. Now, the only problem with this is, in hotels, they're not going to let you light in your room, right? In hospitals in America, they're not going to let you light candles in your room. So battery power is fine. But let's say you're in a hotel, they're not going to let you light candles in your room. So what do they do in the hotels? If you go to hotels, I haven't gone to a hotel for Shabbat, but I understand that they have outside the dining room, they have a big table, and everybody comes and lights candles there. So, first of all, there's a problem there even for Ashkenazim. Ashkenazim says you can have multiple people lighting candles in the same place. But the problem for the Ashkenazim is who sits in the lobby and near those candles. No one's using it. They're lighting it and walking into the dining room. Lighting it and walking into the dining room. Says Rav Mordechai Eliyahu. In Shai Shur Mordechai, he says, in this manner, if you're lighting it on a table outside the dining room, no one can say the bracha. Because no one's having any onik from this. Now, if that's where they're lighting, in the dining room now, next to people.
What do you mean onik? How long did
you have to use it?
No. How long is the onik?
You have to use it.
Onik is 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
We're saying that the main way of oneg is by eating next to the candles. If you can't eat next to candles, you have to use it somehow. Read a book, do something. I don't know. You have to do something next to it.
With the Nerot, 5 minutes.
You have to have done something next to the candles. So she's using it. Very good. So she's using it. Very good.
But the ballroom or the hallway is the continuation of the Shabbat candles, the lights themselves, the extension of they light in the hallway, right? You say then they go in
the hallway.
Correct. But the lights in the ballroom or the big room is the continuation, extension of the lights.
If they did that, if they lit the candles and then went and turned on the lights in the ballroom, that's one thing. But usually the workers are turning on the lights in the ballroom. They're not the people who are lighting the candles.
They're already on, so they have the kavanah.
And you didn't tell them. Maybe you told them. I don't know. So he says, Ramar Mordechai says that if that's the case, and you have to light on that table, for Sfaradim, only one person can make the bracha. So if you came down and you saw someone else already lit, you cannot make the bracha anymore. Ashkenazim, they can all make brachot when table there. But he says what you can do, they should put coffee and cake and tea next to this table, so people will sit next to it and eat next to it. And once you do that, once you do that, then you are using those candles.
You're not allowed to do it before Kiddush.
So we're saying that you can use it at any time after Kiddush, as long as you're using those actual candles. You don't have to be before Kiddush.
No. You come after the Kiddush and eat next to use it. To use the candle.
Say what? Yeah. If you want to make a bracha, if you can't light it in the hotel room, because once a bracha is made at that location, no one else can make a bracha at that location, at that table. Right. Say again. You can say Yiraton before, after, forever.
The whole day
It's not related to the bracha. The bracha is when the candles are lit. So according to Sfaradim, one person lit that location, no one else can make the bracha anymore. You come, you light, you go, you don't make a bracha. You want to make a bracha, you light it in your hotel room. Now this.
What if the candles are where the like the food are, like the dining room?
In the hotel?
Yeah.
In the hotel? It's in the dining room?
Yeah.
So you're getting one place is good, that the fact that it's only Shabbat, you're using it. But you have the other problem for Sfaradim, is that only one person can make that bracha in that room. And so You're using it, but you can't make the bracha.
look what שולחן ערוך זה. שניים או שלושה בעלי בתים הולכים במקום אחד, יש אומרים...
יש אומרים.
רגע, יש אומרים שכל אחד מברך על המנורה שלו.
ויש,
ויש מגמגם בדבר.
ונכון,
ונכון להיזהר בספק ברכות.
ולא יברך אלא אחד.
הגה.
That's the Ramah.
הגה.
That's the Ramah. That's the Ramah. That's Ashkenazim. That's why I said we don't pass in this way. That's Ashkenazim could light more than one lady in that place and make the bracha. Sfaradim, only one person can do that. So now we're going to go to the idea that Rabbi Yosef Monara brought over here.
Why?
About what about my hotel? They're not letting me.
Well, I don't understand why it's affect brachot. Each person is mechuyav on the bracha, and each person is nehene from the menorah.
So the question is, I'm lighting to make oneg, right? To have enjoyment, kavod, and stuff. If I light an extra candle, is there really more oneg?
Yeah, but
so the Maharil said yes.
No, but
the Shulchan Aruch says I'm not sure if that's really more oneg. Because
Shabbat is for me, Shabbat is for you, Shabbat is for you.
Yeah, but I can use those candles. We're talking about all the candles can be used. We'll move on. We'll take this offline later. Okay. Now, what about another idea over here? What about, and this is what Rabbi Yosef now brought to our attention before. You're right. The hotel is not letting me light my own candles in my own room. I want to make a bracha, but I can't use the hotel dining room because everybody lit there already. I can't light with a bracha. So can I go into my room, in the hotel room, and turn on a light? Well, guess what? I only have one light in the hotel room. It's my bathroom light. Can I make the bracha? Because you can make a bracha on electric lights, right? You don't have to eat. You have to enjoy that light. I can see what I'm doing in the bathroom when I'm using it. It's an enjoyment of some sort, right? You bring shalom bayit. Imagine you can't see yourself what you're doing.
The Nerot Shabbat, it's only for the bracha. It's also if you...
You're right.
If you light it and you have shalom bayit, it's enough. Safek brachot la'akel. So maybe you
so
don't...
let's take a look at this. First question is as follows. We have 4 minutes. Let's get through this. So give me 4 minutes, please. Any questions could be emailed to me, send in the group. I'll take them all. We'll try to answer them. But for now, is it today really any kavod, oneg, or shalom bayit that comes from our candles that we light? Look at these powerful electric lights. Is there really anything to it?
1,000 candles.
Right?
You know what I think?
So he brings from the radiance of Shabbat. He writes, most homes are brightly illuminated during Shabbat. So is there really reason to light them?
The symbol.
So like we said before,
the symbol of
some suggest that before lighting the candles, one should light the electric light. This is according to Ashkenazim, because they say, once they say the bracha, they already accept Shabbat. So therefore he says, go and turn on the electric light, shut them off, turn them back on before you make Hadlakat Nerot. Okay, this way, now the electric lights will be for kavod, because your lights are not doing anything. There's little candles. So go and turn on. For us Faradim, for our ladies who do not take Shabbat in when they light the candles, they could make the bracha, light the candles, then go around and turn on the other lights that they need, and that's going to be fine. Okay, and that's what you do l'chvod Shabbat Kodesh. And he writes over here, Shal Shuas of Tshuvot V'Ragot, of Rav Sternbach. We do not have the custom to place the candles on the table specifically, right? Because rather the lights serves as an honor to Shabbat. It's the ambience. Nice romantic Shabbat dinner. That's a nice thing.
The minute you Shabbat, you know it's Shabbat.
Okay, and the Pnina Halacha brings us down as well. Rabbi Melamed brings down that the best way is to shut off the lights beforehand, then make the Hadlakot Nerot, turn on the lights, right? Everything should be done l'chvod Shabbat Kodesh. But if you didn't turn off the lights and you just lit those candles, you also be yotzeh, and that is fine. 1 second. Rega Ahad, please.
Send him to the
page 163 in the Yalkut Yosef English edition on Shabbat and Halacha 8. There's no need whatsoever to turn off electric lights before one kindles Shabbat lights. All the electric lights are burning brightly. One may still recite the blessing over the designated Shabbat candles or lamps. So although it's good to do, a person could just make the bracha on that because it does add a radiance of Shabbat.
Yeah.
So for now, the hotel question: can I go and turn on the bathroom light in the hotel room and make a bracha on that? So what's the answer?
Yeah.
The answer will be yes. Why? Because we said electric Shabbat you can make a bracha on, right? And it will be enjoyment from that light. It's in your own room. So it's your private living quarters, and you'll be fine. So you can't make the bracha in the bathroom. I can make the bracha outside the bathroom.
You contradict yourself.
Why?
Because you said now, if a person in Erev Shabbat, in his house, he is Madlik Nerot Shabbat, and he has all the lights on,
Right?
then he said the bracha because more light.
Ah, so you're saying every light
So in the hotel, when
Every
all these
light
people that are
adds
lighting,
more lights.
each one should
That's
say
what
the
the
bracha.
that's what the Maharil said.
No,
That's
but
the Maharil.
but this was the Rav
That-
Ovadia said,
That's the
no,
Maharil, and that's the Ramah. But the Chamavaji says clearly only one woman can make the bracha.
Who did you read now?
No, that was just about the electric lights if it's not off.
Who was
Yeah, but
that?
it's nothing to do with lighting more than one person.
He said more light.
No,
He
no.
said you don't have to shut it down.
Um,
You don't have to shut it down.
no. I know what you want to say, but it's not right.
Okay.
Here, Chamavaji, you're right. This is Yaakov Joseph. Someone's a guest of Shabbat at the home of relatives or friends, and he's given a private room to sleep in. He must recite the blessing and kindle Shabbat lights in that room. Likewise, someone who rents a room in a hotel for Shabbat must recite the blessing and kindle lights for Shabbat in his hotel room. If the hotel management does not permit anyone to leave candles burning in the rooms for our fear of fire, the guest should kindle lights in the dining hall. If the guest discovers that someone else has already kindled Shabbat lights in the dining hall, he may no longer recite a blessing over the lights he kindles there. In this case, he should recite the blessing over the electric lights in his guest room. Okay? And that's the halakha l'maaseh. Halakha l'maaseh. Okay? Very good. Everybody got it clearly? Say again. If you have that, for sure that's better. You would like to use that, that's for sure better. Flashlight, that would work. But even in that case, if all that you had was that room, then that would be okay. Okay? If it's an incandescent bulb, yes.
This is the best.
The best, it's a battery powered. Adonai chafetz l'ma'an tzidko yagdil tzorah v'yadir.
I have a question.
Forgive me if I stood up. I just I'm back.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Come on.
Rabbi, did you get some?